Good morning, friends. Today we are going to learn BA 3rd Introduction to Literary Criticism paper, Module 2nd, Part 1st, Classical Criticism. In the previous part, we learned the function of criticism and nature of criticism. Now, this is the second module, Classical Criticism. What is the meaning of classical criticism and concept of tragedy, and what is the concept of tragic hero of Aristotle from Aristotle's Poetics is the part of this module. First part is of concept of tragedy and second part is of concept of tragic hero in Aristotle's Poetics. See what is the meaning of classical criticism and how it is emerged. The Longman's Dictionary of Contemporary English defines classical as being in accordance with ancient Greek or Roman models in literature or art, or with later systems and standards based on them, particularly with reference to balance, regularity, and simpleness of art. In classical criticism, what it says, this dictionary this dictionary says it must be with reference to balance, regularity, and simpleness of art reflected in classical criticism. Roman and Greek models are the Greek models in literature is important in classical criticism. The 8th of the 4th centuries BC, a period yet to be paralleled in the history of human civilization for its brilliance in literature, philosophy, and the visual arts, is normally known as the Classical Age. If we see this century, 4th BC, we come to understand how this history of human civilization is famous in its brilliance in literature, philosophy, and visual arts. If we see the 4th century literature, 4th century philosophy, 4th century visual arts, these are the evergreen examples for every human civilization. Classics are works of fiction like Shakespeare, Jane Austen, Thomas Hardy that are relevant to all ages through all times. Classics are books that have stood the test of time for their relevance, their universal appeal, simplicity, regularity, and form had a sense of beauty and balance. See how classics, still we read Shakespeare, Jane Austen, Thomas Hardy, and other such writers from classics. They are treated as a classic because in every century they are read out and become famous and very much relevance to every century, every society, each society. Their universal appeal is important. That's why they are called as a classics. Long before the term literary criticism came into practice, literary theory existed as far as 4th century BC. In fact, the earliest work of literary theory is considered to be Aristotle's Poetics, where he offers his famous definition of tragedy. We see how Aristotle's Poetics, Plato's Republic, Socrates' work are called as a classics. Those are the pioneers of the classical literature, classical literary criticism. Plato and Aristotle in Greek, and Horace and Longinus in Rome formed the core of classical criticism in ancient times. Classical criticism views the literary work as an imitation or reflection or representation of the world and human life. The primary criteria applied to a work is that of the truth of its representation to the subject matter that it represents or should represent. On the other hand, Aristotle, the most distinguished disciple of Plato, was a critic, scholar, logician, and practical philosopher. He is known for his critical treatise, the Poetics and the Rhetoric, dealing with art of poetry and art of speaking, respectively. Aristotle examines poetry as a form of art and evaluates its constituent elements on the basis of its aesthetic beauty. Aristotle actually observed the then available forms of literature and analyzed them and codified the rules. In his work, he has described the characteristics of tragedy, comedy, and epic in elaborative manner. In his Poetics, Aristotle defines poetry as an imitation, in Greek called as a mimesis, of human actions. See, we are going to learn the concept of tragedy from Aristotle's Poetics. You must understand it because it is a classical criticism and it is applied in every age. The poem takes an instance of human action and represents it in a new medium or material, that of words. Aristotle distinguishes poetry from other arts in terms of the artistic media, the kind of actions imitated, and in the manner of imitation. For example, dramatic or narrative. He also makes distinctions between the various poetic kinds, such as drama and epic, tragedy and comedy. Aristotle's Poetics provides a classic analysis of the form of tragedy. The critical inquiry had begun almost in the 4th century BC in Greece. Plato, the great disciple of Socrates, the first critic who examined poetry as a part of his moral philosophy. Plato's official Plato's critical observations on poetry lie scattered in the Ion, the Symposium, the Republic, and the Laws. These are his works. In the Ion, he advocated poetry as a genuine piece of imaginative literature. In the Republic, which is a treatise on his concepts of ideal state, he rejected poetry on moral and philosophical grounds. See, here we can learn Aristotle's Poetics is answer to the Plato's Republic. So, Plato's every concept is challenged by Aristotle and it is answer to the Republic. Plato was a great moral philosopher. He was mainly concerned with inducing moral values in the society and seeking the ultimate truth. For him, poetry is immoral and imitative in nature. His analysis is based on the tragedies of Greek dramatists such as Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides. Aristotle defines tragedy as follows. See how Plato treated poetry as a immoral. On the other hand, Aristotle treated is imitation is an action. Now he defined tragedy. Tragedy then is an imitation of an action that is serious, complete, and of a certain magnitude. In language 3, embellished with each kind of artistic ornament, several kinds being found in separate parts of the play, through pity and fear, effecting the proper catharsis or purgation of these emotions. See, this is the definition of tragedy of Aristotle. How he treated tragedy as a serious, complete, and of certain magnitude. Aristotle further says that the tragic hero will evoke both pity and fear if he is neither thoroughly good nor thoroughly evil, but a mixture of both. Aristotle's hero, ideal tragic hero, because he hold both pity and fear. He is neither thoroughly good nor thoroughly evil, but a mixture of both. That's why he is called as the ideal tragic hero. The tragic effect will be stronger if the hero is of higher than the ordinary moral worth. Such a man suffers a change in fortune from happiness to misery because of a mistaken act to which he is led by his hamartia, his error of judgment. Hamartia, this is the concept in tragic hero, that how tragedy happens with him and how he suffers as a common man, though he is a hero. Hamartia. Hamartia, also called tragic flaw. Hamartia, for Greek hamartian, to err, refers to an inherent defect or shortcoming in the hero of a tragedy who is in other respects a superior being favored by fortune. Hamartia is a concept called as a tragic flaw of a tragic hero. How his actions are mistaken and tragic flaw is responsible. Aristotle introduced the term casually in the Poetics in describing the tragic hero as a man of noble rank and nature whose misfortune is not brought about by villainy but by some error of judgment, that is called as a hamartia. The imperfection latter came to be interpreted as a moral flaw, such as Othello's jealousy or Hamlet's irresolution, although most great tragedies defy such a simple interpretation. Most importantly, the hero's suffering and its far 13 reaching reverberations are far out of proportion to his flaw. An element of cosmic collusion among the hero's flaw, chance, necessity, and other external forces is essential to bring about the tragic catastrophe. In chapter 15 of the Poetics, Aristotle deals with the art of characterization on an extended scale. He lists four essential of successful characterization. Four essential of characterization. Hero must be good. Hero must be creative. That kind of four essential successful characterization is given by Aristotle. So, here we learn how the classical criticism is important and Aristotle Poetics is a part of it, and we are going to learn about what is the concept of tragedy in classical criticism presented by Aristotle and how he defined that time of works of art, and created a concept of tragedy and the concept of ideal tragic hero. In the next lecture, we will see the essential of successful characterization. Till then, thank you.